Section 4.4, contraposition. Now we're going to work on the last operation of the four categorical propositions called contraposition. This requires two steps, but you can actually express these two steps into one. And basically what it is if you have S and P, you go ahead and switch them. You switch positions, and you replace each one of them with their term complement. So if you were going to put this into one operation, switch the subject and predicate terms with their term complements, okay? And so what we have with these, A and O categorical propositions are logically equivalent, and then I and E, they're going to be undetermined because they're not logically equivalent. It's not a deductive immediate inference. Okay? So let's do the first two that are valid immediate inferences. If you say all S are P, and you go ahead and contrapose that, okay? Switch S and P, change this to non-P, change this to non-S. So this real easily, you can see it's all non-P are non-S. This is an immediate inference. So if we have something that says all dogs are animals, true, right? All dogs are animals. Therefore, all non-animals are non-dogs. If every dog is an animal, then if you have something that's not an animal, you know it's not a dog. Okay? Let's go to the O. So the English, true, true, and we're maintaining its logically equivalent, so the Venn diagrams will be the same. The O, some S are not P. Therefore, if we're going to contrapose this, you change the positions and you'd say some non-P are not non-S. Okay, so if you had some animals are not cats, that's true, then some non-cats are not non-animals, and that's going to be true as well. So at least one animal isn't a cat. So you have some things that are not cats, they are not non-animals. Okay? So basically this is saying that there are animals out there that are not cats. So if you have something that's not a cat, it's not automatically a non-animal. It means you could have a tiger, it's not a cat, and it's not a non-animal, a tiger's an animal. Okay. Now, one thing just to make you feel better, I'm sure some of you, when I'm saying this sentence here, all non-animals are non-dogs, and this one, some non-dogs are not non-animals, boy, that can get awful confusing. If this makes you feel better, I had to say those a few times before I knew I got it, and I can walk away from this stuff for about 6 weeks, come and teach it again, and I still got to think this through. So if it's hard for you, don't feel too bad. It's hard for me, and I'm your professor. Okay? Now, when you try to do something like this, it's not a valid immediate inference. They will say you are using illicit contraposition, and that's the same for obversion. Well, obversion, there is no illicit obversion because all four categorical propositions were logically equivalent, but you could have illicit conversion. So anyway, that's what that's about. So let's do this. Let's go to the Venn diagrams for these two propositions, A and O, and I've kind of written things out here just to speed stuff up. So here's all S or P, and we know what that Venn diagram is. It's saying every single S is a P. It's going to be here. So if S's do exist, you're not going to have an S that's not a P or that is not in the overlap region. That's why this is empty, 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 and we shade, right? So you come over here, and remember, you don't switch the classes, and you don't say non-S and non-P. You keep them S and P, because that's enough for us when we have non-S. We know that means outside the P circle and not outside the S circle, and non-P means outside the P circle. You don't change this to non-P and this to non-S. Okay, I failed to kind of stress that when we were talking about obversion. Okay, but let's do here, and if we go up, remember, I really like those wordy sentences. I'd ideally like you to look here, and even though you know this is going to be the same, to be able to not look at this and just look at this statement and conceptually know how to draw it. And the best way to get this conceptually is to write out a real wordy sentence like this. This is what this is saying. All non-P is everything outside the P circle, because non-P means outside the P circle. Just as simple as that. Everything outside the P circle is going to be found outside the S circle. So here are P's, and you're saying anything that's outside the P circle. We're in the P circle, we're moving right there, that line, we are outside. So anything outside the P circle is outside the S circle. So anything outside of P is outside of S. So keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. It's going to be up here. So that's why this is empty. If it's outside of P, it's outside of the S circle. So this is empty, and they're the same. That's why it's equivalent. Okay, let's go down to the O proposition, because that is equivalent to some S are not P. There's at least one S that is outside the P circle. Here's P circle, here's P circle. Right there, outside of the P circle, there's one S that's outside. So you put an X there, right? Okay, here, what is this saying? Let's go up to my favorite little sentences, because I think they help you conceptually. What this is saying is there is at least one thing outside the P circle. Right there, as soon as we go there, we're outside the P circle. There's at least one thing outside the P circle that is not outside the S circle. It's not going to be out here. It's not outside it. There's one thing, it's right there. There's at least one thing outside of P that isn't outside of the S circle. So they are the same. Okay? Alright, let's go back up, and now we'll talk about the two that are invalid for contraposition. Okay, so here we go here. Alright, there it is. Some S are P, therefore, and we contrapose it, some non-P are non-S. This is not an immediate inference, and here's why. Let's say we had something like this. Some humans are non-registered voters. That is true. So if we contrapose this, non-registered, the opposite is registered. Humans, non-humans. Some registered voters are non-humans. Okay? We don't have any Martians coming down and voting. That's false. So the Venn diagram for the I proposition should not be the same. And we can tell by the English sentence why it's undetermined. Let's go to the E. No S or P, therefore no non-P are non-S. This is not a valid deductive argument, and this is a short deductive argument. If they're valid, they're called immediate inferences. This is not an immediate inference, and here's why. No dogs are cats. That's true. Well, what about this? No non-cats are non-dogs. Okay? That's going to be false. It's true that no dog is a cat. But this is saying if you're not a cat, then you if you're not a cat, then that means there's no way you could not be a dog, and that's false. You could be a tiger, so if you're a tiger, you're a non-cat, and that means you're a non-dog. So again, these can be difficult, but if you say this to yourself a few times, you realize that that is false. This is saying no non-cats or non-dogs. That's not true. You don't have to be a cat, but that doesn't mean you're a dog, okay? You can be a tiger. You are a non-dog, okay? All right, so let that simmer a little bit, and let's go to the Venn diagrams for the I and the E. Okay, so first here's the I. Some S are P. There's at least one S that is a P. That's in the P circle, and there it is. Now let's go here. We contrapose this. Some non-P are non-S. And here's that sentence that I want you to say, because this helps you conceptually. And what this is saying is, some of the things outside the P circle. That means there's at least one thing outside of P. So here's the thing. It's right there. It's moved outside of P, right? That is outside of S. Okay, so there's at least one P that is outside the S circle. Okay, so you're coming out here, at least one thing outside of P that also is outside of S. So it's not going to be in here, you're going to put it right there. Do these look the same? No, they don't. So this is not equivalent, and the Venn diagram is just completely different. Okay, there's at least one thing outside the P circle that's also outside the S circle. So there it is. And you know what? You could have this and write it over here. You could do that. You could do this, come over here, and you know, it doesn't matter where you put that X. Okay? There's at least one thing outside the P circle that's also outside the S circle, and you can put it over here. Okay? So the Venn diagrams don't match, confirming that the two English sentences didn't preserve truth value meaning. It wasn't true, true. It was true, false. Okay. Let's go to the E. No SRP. Okay, there isn't going to be any S that overlaps in the P region, so this is empty, right? Okay, now we have this. Let's go up to my favorite little wordy sentences, and this says, none of the things outside the P circle, right, is going to be found outside the S. So as soon as you get, you know, once you're outside the P circle, there's nothing that's going to be outside of S. So we're going to do something different here. Let's draw a little square like this, okay? And basically what this is saying, nothing outside of P. So we're in P, we're walking, and we're walking, and we're walking, and here's the border of P. We're out of P now, and it's saying nothing outside of P is going to be found outside the S circle. So this means all of this, everybody, is empty. If it's outside of P, it ain't going to be found outside of S. So you can convey that by making anything outside of S empty. And of course, to make something empty, John Venn said, you make these hash marks. Okay? So that's kind of a weird one, isn't it? But it's right there. Nothing outside the P circle is going to be found outside the S circle. So if it's outside of P, it's going to be right here. It's not going to be outside the S circle. This is empty. Okay. All right, so there's contraposition and your Venn diagrams. And next we're going to move to the Aristotle's traditional square of opposition. And that's when I'll start talking a little bit about the modern interpretation and the Aristotelian. You remember I sent you an email not to worry about that distinction until I bring it up. I'm going to say a few things, and that's going to put your mind at ease about that.